I don't really know where else to post this. And before anyone says it, no, I wasn't drunk, high, or sleep deprived, or trying to make up some creepy campfire story. I'm posting this because I genuinely want to know if anyone else has experienced something similar. This happened 3 nights ago in northwest Arkansas, out near some old logging trails past Devil's Den. I'm 27 and I spend a lot of time outdoors, hunting, hiking, fishing, just the main things. I know these woods pretty well, or at least I thought I did. I went out alone around 5 p.m. to scout deer trails and clear my head after work. It had rained earlier that day, so the entire forest smelled like wet leaves and pine. Everything felt normal at first. I parked my truck at one of those little gravel pull-offs and started hiking down an old trail that honestly looked more like an animal path than anything maintained. I remember noticing how quiet it was. Not peaceful quiet, dead quiet. No birds, no bugs, nothing. Just absolute silence. And if you spend enough time outside, you know that kind of silence feels wrong. About an hour in, I found this weird clearing I swear I've never seen before. The trees opened into a circle, maybe 30 feet wide, and the ground there was just completely bare. No grass and no brush, just mud and these blackened tree stumps around the edges like something had burned there years ago. And in the middle was a chair, an old wooden chair. It was facing away from me. I know that sounds stupid, but seeing that thing sitting there in the middle of nowhere made my skin crawl instantly. It looked wet from the rain and rotten with age, but it hadn't fallen apart. It looked like it was placed there, like someone still used it. I actually laughed at myself at first, because I figured some teenagers dragged it out there for a bonfire or something. I even pulled out my phone to take a picture, but before I could, I heard a whistle. It didn't sound close. It sounded far off in the woods behind me. 3 short notes. I froze immediately because it sounded exactly like someone trying to get another person's attention. I yelled out, "Hello." Nothing. Then maybe 10 seconds later, I heard the same whistle again. Except this time, it was closer. Way closer. I can't explain why, but every instinct in my body started screaming at me to leave. Not panic, not to run, just to leave quietly and as fast as I could. So I started backing away from the clearing. That's when I noticed the chair wasn't facing away anymore. I know how insane that sounds, I know. But it was turned slightly towards me. Not all the way. Just enough for me to notice that it had moved. I stood there, staring at it for a second, trying to rationalize what I was seeing. Maybe I remembered wrong. Maybe I didn't notice the angle before. Then I heard footsteps in the mud behind me. They sounded heavy. Like whoever was walking was wearing boots. I spun around, expecting to see another hiker or a hunter, but I didn't see anybody. But the footsteps didn't stop. They kept circling me somewhere between the trees. I could hear the leaves and twigs crunching under every step. It was just always out of sight. I backed up faster, and that's when the whistling started again. Except now, it sounded like it was all around me, coming from different directions, like multiple people. 3 short notes, over and over. I don't mind admitting this part, but I panicked. I turned and started walking fast back towards the trail, trying not to fully run because I didn't want to lose my footing in the mud. The whole time, I could hear movement pacing me in the woods to my right. The noise wasn't crashing through the brush like an animal. It was just walking, and it sounded like it was in step with me. At one point, I finally looked over and saw something between the trees, maybe 50 yards away. It was tall, way too tall. At first, I thought it was a tree trunk until it moved. I only saw it for maybe 2 seconds, but I remember thinking its arms looked wrong. They were too long, hanging almost to its knees. Its skin or clothes, I'm not really sure, looked gray against the dark woods. Then it ducked behind a tree. That's when I started running. The whistling stopped instantly after that, and somehow that made everything worse, because now the woods were completely silent again, except for me stumbling through the mud and breathing hard. I finally reached the trail and saw my truck through the trees ahead. I have never been so relieved in my life. I got inside, locked the doors, and sat there trying to calm down while rain hit the windshield. I actually started convincing myself that I imagined the whole thing. That was until I looked into my rearview mirror. Someone was standing at the edge of the woods. I say someone, but it didn't look right. It was tall enough that its head sat higher than the roof of my truck, even from a distance. It was skinny and motionless. I couldn't make out a face because it was getting dark, but I could see pale skin between the trees, and I swear to God, it was smiling. It wasn't moving, it was just standing there, watching me. Then came the whistle. 3 short notes, right outside my truck. Not from the woods, it came from beside me. I jerked my head towards the passenger window so hard, I smacked it on the glass. There was nobody there. But the whistle came again, and this time it was directly behind me. That was enough for me. I threw the truck in reverse and nearly slid into the ditch trying to get out of there. I didn't look back again until I hit the highway. Nothing was behind me, and I barely slept that night. Here's the part that finally made me post this. Yesterday morning, I went outside to leave for work, and I found footprints in the mud leading across my driveway. They were barefoot, long and thin steps. They didn't look human at all. And they stopped directly beneath my bedroom window. My dog refuses to go outside after dark now. He just stands at the back door growling towards the trees behind my house. About an hour ago, While typing this, I heard whistling outside. It was 3 short notes, the same exact pattern.